Thank you everyone for joining us today for the spotlight session on scaling iLEAP together. My name is Danielle Betterman. I am a communications and marketing manager at the Open Logistics Foundation. I'm super happy that you've all taken the time to join us today. We have a really great agenda with two speakers. So I would like to take a moment to just quickly introduce them. They'll of course introduce themselves later on, but just to give them a little bit of a highlight here. So I'm here today with Violetta, who is the Senior Technical Manager at Smart Freight Center, and Ingo, who is Department Head of Prototyping and Testing at DAXA. So I thank them both for being here today. I'm really excited to have them speak and have them share their experience, their expertise with us today. Okay. And just to get started and show you kind of a layout for what you can expect today, I will be starting off with an introduction of what the Open Logistics Foundation is and also give you just a bit of an overview of the working group and project structure that we have with this work that we're doing at the Open Logistics Foundation. And then I will turn things over to Violetta, who will give a look into iLEAP. And lastly, I'll switch things over to Ingo, who will give insights into a real-life implementation that they are doing over at DAXA. And of course, at the end, we will have some time left over for a live Q&A. Please feel free to put all of your questions into the chat as they come up. We don't want any questions to be forgotten, so don't wait until the end. Put them in whenever they come up. And if someone can't answer it in the chat in between, perfectly fine and encouraged. If not, we will be answering them at the end during the Q&A. Okay, so I will get started with the introduction right now. Okay, so just a bit about us at the Open Logistics Foundation. We were established in 2021, a nonprofit and common benefit foundation established by our 5 founding members, DAXA, Fraunhofer, IML, Renus Logistics, Duesport, and DB Schenker. At that time, the logistics industry was really facing a lot of challenges and still are facing challenges with siloed digital solutions. And companies were really missing some core needs with the foundational work within the logistics industry, within supply chain, such as standardization and in turn then also interoperability. So we created this neutral nonprofit space where companies can collaborate on the things that don't differentiate them. So the commodities that are at the foundation of the supply chain. Today we have more than 50 members and network partners represented across, I think, 15 countries, which is really exciting, continuing to grow and become more globalized. And a lot of these members and network partners, they're competitors. So we are, even though they are competitors, working together in this ecosystem to build and to jointly implement these open source solutions that benefit the industry. And as I mentioned, we do work in developing open source solutions. So why is this important to us? Our goal with the Open Logistics Foundation is to create something that was accessible to all across the industry. So not just another siloed solution that 1 or 2 companies can use. Open source is really what grants accessibility. And you can see here the value is really significant and really shows why this is such a great tool and capability to use for this work. So while these numbers show that open source is ideal for this collaboration in this digital age, so does the experience of our members through projects like Emissions Data Exchange and others that we have at the Open Logistics Foundation. And you'll hear all about that experience today and how this has been useful for our members like DAXA through Ingo. Okay. And of course, as I mentioned, we are all working collaboratively. So in addition to creating open source solutions, we also really focus on building our community, a community where co-opetition is encouraged and it's not avoided. So competitors from across the industry are working together as part of the Open Logistics Foundation to collaborate at the commodity level and then compete and use resources where it actually matters the most and that means the features that are differentiating market. And we know that this is important because these commodities are at the foundation of our supply chain, and they really require organization and collaboration across the industry to make them as effective as possible. And just to give a bit of an overview of the layout of how we work. So on the left here, you can see that the overarching working group is enabling logistics decarbonization. And then the project within that is emissions data exchange. Our members are working in collaboration with Smart Freight Center, who Violetta is here to represent, and the SINE Foundation to establish iLEAP as a global or open source standard to improve the accuracy and consistency of emissions data. So we are working within this working group, within this project, to make that possible. And I won't go into detail with these here, but we do have 4 current real world use cases. And again, Ingo will talk about his experience with Daxter today, but just to show you kind of the variety of real world use cases that we have going at the moment and the work that our members are doing to achieve this. Okay, and here are the 15 member companies that are working together to make this happen. So I really want to recognize them. They are coming to working group meetings. They are working together. They're doing these real world use cases to bring iLEAP into a standard protocol. So thank you to all of them. And of course, we are always open to more members joining us here to collaborate on this iLEAP standard. So if you are interested and not yet a member, please let us know. We would be happy to include you in our future processes. Okay, and with that, I would love to switch over to Violetta. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Daniela. Good morning, everybody. My name is Violetta Mazzoros, and yeah, I will present to you a bit more on the iLEAP project from our perspective. So yeah, this is a project, as Daniela said, co-led by 2 foundations, Smart Freight Center and the SINE Foundation, and yeah, they are also here today in the webinar. So also any super technical questions into software engineering, we can totally dive into those as well. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do this project without them, since, of course, you know, Smart Freight Center is an NGO that focuses on mobilizing the industry to decarbonize, but we really believe in the carbon transparency and in mobilizing the ecosystem to exchange data, and this is why we did this partnership with them to develop that. So the mission, if you're not familiar with this project, is to really deliver open standards and digital infrastructure for exchanging, reporting, and reducing logistics emissions globally. And iLEAP really enables that, and it follows 2 really important pieces of methodology in carbon accounting for logistics, the GLEC framework and the ISO 14083. So yeah, what is iLEAP? So I wanted to start first and foremost with what is not. So iLEAP is not a central platform. This is something we hear people like really mistaking maybe the notion of it. It's also not a database, and yeah, the iLEAP Secretariat, so Smart Freight Center and the SINE Foundation, cannot see or store any exchange data that people engage in these use cases and the pilots that are happening. So what it is, it's an open source standard, as Daniela said, for the exchange of logistics emissions, but also activity data. And it's comprised of a data model, protocol specification, and a set of data transactions. And I wanted to highlight that it caters to both primary and secondary data. So our aim is not to enable any data exchange and to really help the right party receive those data and yeah, inform their decarbonization decisions. So moving on. Yes, the iLEAP as a standard, the data, it has, of course, a data model, as I said. So the data model was developed in 2024 with a group of more than 30 contributing companies. And it, of course, draws, let's say, a digital parallel from the ISO 14083 and the GLEC framework. And it's built to cover 4 main transactions, which I will show in a second. And the protocol, it's a protocol for exchange. So a very simple analogy is to think as we can all use different email providers and still exchange emails. So it's a similar protocol for exchanging data, and it's interoperable with the PACT as well. So PACT is a data model for collecting product carbon footprints, and it's also very light to deploy. And this is also, I think it's going to be proved as well by Ingo's experience. So moving on to the data transactions, you see on the screen an indicative case. I really want to highlight that. So I hope you can follow my, I will try to do that. So I hope you can follow my cursor here on the screen. So you see like the typical actors that we have, and you can see here the names of the transactions. So starting with like, let's say, a simple and really flexible transaction number 3, you can conceptualize it like as exchanging data focused on activity, so not calculated emissions, between, let's say, a carrier and an LSP, or a carrier and, let's say, a tool provider. So the tools are here with dashed lines because, of course, like they can act on the behalf of anybody. So a carrier that doesn't have the capacity or doesn't want to get into carbon accounting, they can use this transaction and enable somebody else to do that on their behalf. Now we're moving on to something that's more, drawing from the GLEC and the ISO. Once companies have calculated emission intensities, so let's just say how polluting is a transport operation category or a hub operation category, they can exchange that with transaction number 2. So indicatively here we have done this connection, but of course a carrier, for example, could directly use this transaction and send data to a shipper if they wish, or to a tool provider, depending of course on the use case and the contracts in place. And last but not least, we have transaction 1, which it's exchanging transport chain element. So this means like from point A to point B. So a transport chain contains many elements. So exchanging the emissions data from those elements to somebody else. And of course, if a party has access to the full chain, this also means that this is like a shipment level emissions. And we are now working on a new one. It's still on the draft phase. You can see here it's aggregated, and we hope with this transaction to enable even more parties to use the protocol, because it focuses on sharing the pre-calculated emissions on a transport service, which means that, for example, you can share data from a full quarter on a transport service that has been recurring, right, and share that either to another client or directly, for example, to authorities if that's required in your area of operations. So how is iLEAP developed? As I said, there is the Secretariat. So Smart Freight Center, together with the SINE Foundation, we are the members of the iLEAP Secretariat, and essentially what we do is we are the main authors of the protocol. We compile the feedback, we coordinate industry meetings, and we coordinate the open source development to an extent, of course, because here comes our scaling partner. It wouldn't have been like such a nice collaboration, and we wouldn't have been able to reach this many companies if also it wasn't for the Open Logistics Foundation. So we're very happy that we have partnered with them, and we are able to test and promote and enlarge the adoption of this standard to really make it the standard, right, of exchange. And we really believe that drawing from so many from so many stakeholders, like taking their input, updating the protocol, like really making the necessary changes, this is the only way to achieve something that can be usable from all of you. And last but not least, we couldn't have done it if it wasn't for all of the individual people, of course, that share in any kind of way, either by joining meetings or by sending an email or by showing up in this testing and sharing their point of view and helping us really fix that. So we're very grateful for this as well. So you might wonder, like, okay, why should you go open source? And of course, Daniela, already mentioned this. And I wanted to bring though like also our point of view and what was our thinking back when we first conceptualized the project. So we really believe that scalability can happen at a lower cost because it enables standardized, open and interoperable emissions data exchange across a full logistics value chain. And like, let's just say if an organization implements this once, then they can reuse that with many other companies that also implement it, right? And also you can have faster onboarding of partners if you're sticking to one way, let's say, of exchanging data, and you do not have to do bespoke solutions. Then also there is a benefit for generally like all of the ecosystem around logistics emissions and transport activity data. There's comparability of data, and this is very important. The Count Emissions EU has approved the ISO 14083 as the standard for doing carbon accounting from logistics operations. So also sticking to an IT standard that also follows that, it's very useful and also reduces the lack of standardization that exists. And last but not least, we really believe that this is the only way to innovate and also accelerate AI applications. By putting everything open source, you can enable anybody to use either their own resources or also use AI agents, for example, to come on top of this protocol and start thinking innovatively how can they achieve other business cases. So on this, we can chat a bit more later. Already we have Way, one of the companies that you saw on Daniela's slide, having published something open source on really fast tracking the implementation with support of AI. But we also have the SINE Foundation working on something really cool on an AI skill, which we think it could pave a bit the way to what the future holds on that. Moving on to the benefits and how different stakeholders can benefit from participating in this project. We have done a little bit of a breakdown per kind of actor. So I'm not going to read every single one of them. The slides are going to be circulated. But what I would like to highlight, for example, for the shippers, by working with your suppliers and implementing this protocol and then requesting suppliers to follow that, then also the data that you're receiving from all of them can be like easily merged together, compared, and then you can really use that to drive action. For solution providers, they have already said that there is lower implementation and reporting costs. They stick to one standard that they can reuse. And for example, for carriers, they can also stick to one way of exchange instead of having multiple and bespoke solutions, like really stay also visible by investing in digitalization into the shippers world, right? Because it's one of the main mega trends of the coming years. So this is how we perceive the benefits and the importance. Now, to make things a little bit more practical, and if you would like to get involved, I have two slides that I would like to show. So the roadmap of the project. This year in April, you can see, oh yeah, that's a great shape. So here in April, it was Smart Freight Week. So maybe you all know that Smart Freight Center hosts an event in Amsterdam once a year where like all different kinds of actors and partners come together for 3 days to discuss different topics. And this was the marking of the publication of the version 1.1.0 draft release. So in the past, you can see here, previous Smart Freight Week, again, we launched the version 1.00, and now we're working towards a newer version, right? So we're currently here, and what is very interesting that's happening at the moment, we work with to create an approval service. So what this means is the companies that are implementing iLEAP, they can let us double check their implementation, and then they're having like a little stamp of approval. I have at the moment the companies that we're going to be working with during the coming months and that have showed an interest in this work, and anybody else that you might think is interested in this, of course, connect them with us, and we can take that forward. As I said, we have also a super interesting topic. The SINE Foundation is working on an AI skill. So yeah, if you think that this is something that is relevant and interesting for your company, also contact us and we can directly connect you. I will also put I have also the email coming up in a second, and I will put that also in the chat. So what's coming in the future? Anybody that is interested and will, for example, start engaging with us now, of course, they can follow different kind of workshops that both the Open Logistics Foundation but also us are hosting. This workshop focus really on technical topics, like, for example, discussing, okay, how can we depict better parameters that are important, for example, for electrification. Is the protocol enough? Is it not? Like, it's more of like a debate. Or I have a special use case in my company, this and that. Is the protocol fit for purpose? Or we have another workshop that will be probably coming up, really diving back into the data quality indicators that are already in the protocol and thinking like, okay, are these indicators enough to help the actors? How can we improve them? So they are more like open technical discussions that draw not only from a standardization perspective, but also from a carbon accounting perspective. And this is around, I forgot to put a timeline, but this will be around Q4 here. We hope to publish version 1.1.0, so move from the draft at the moment to like a stable, let's say, and tested version. And this, of course, depends on companies like Daxter to share back, but also like Way and other tool providers to share back comments and testing results and help us do that. And how can you engage? So join the community. Either you are an LF member, join the community. If you're not, also our community is completely open. We host different kind of meetings, but both of them are equally very, very important. And then also talk to your partners who control your transport data and ask them about their digitalization plan. Maybe bring this topic, this project into the conversation. See if they're willing to do a pilot. And a pilot doesn't have to be perfect, right? You can start from something very small and measurable and expand from there, of course. Share the work with other standardization or sustainability experts. We think this is also very critical because any kind of feedback is very useful for the project. And some specific, let's say, directed engagement strategies for some of the stakeholders. What the shipper can do is really like chat and convince carriers to implement a protocol like this. And and then, of course, the shipper implements, the carrier implements, and they can engage in a very nice data exchange that is all machine to machine and standardized. Tool providers, they are already quite a few of them that are implementing this. And this, of course, will create an ecosystem of interoperable tools, which is also very nice. And last but not least, carriers, if they choose to implement, they invest in one protocol and and they scale without too much growing overhead. And we think that this is also something that can improve the value proposition of those companies. So help us reach a critical mass. I think this is my my last statement. Thank you so much for listening. I'm really looking forward to your questions. And here on the screen, you can see also the email that you can just reach directly, but also, of course, for any information, we will put in the chat the respective web pages as well for all of you. So that was it from me. Thank you so much. I'm on time. So I'll pass it to you, Ingo.
So I need to unmute me to say something. Thank you, Violetta, for handing me over the button. I need to underline nearly every word you said in the past. Especially, I need to highlight the possibility of the large language model, what you showed us yesterday, the possibility possibilities which lay in this. I need to investigate it, or I like to investigate it in the next weeks, because it shows so much possibilities, and I can encourage everybody to have a look in it. It is a really, really great thing. So coming back, so how can we scale iLEAP together? And that's Violetta said, encourage to the shippers, encourage your transport provider to integrate iLEAP. I can say we want to integrate iLEAP, so let's encourage the shippers to integrate it. So let's do it together. That's the thing. So first of all, some words to me. My name is Ingo Müller. I'm Department of Prototyping and Testing. And now you wonder, why is somebody from prototyping and testing, also R&D environment, talking about environmental stuff? So it's a very easy thing. First of all, we worked together in R&D some years ago in the pre-project for a whole environmental project, or an environmental department, and we do all the investigation and do all the groundwork for that. And in the second part, one of my jobs is also to be in the logistics steering committee of the Open Logistics Foundation. And so these both puzzle pieces fell together. And so in the moment, we're taking care of our blueprint, of our prototype for using iLEAP for interchanging CO2 emission data between companies. So what challenges do we face, and how do we come to iLEAP? Why are we so involved in this project? First of all, there's a lot of fragmented data landscape when you look in logistic partners, and there are a lot of platforms, and you know it from other messages which need to be interchanged between logistic partners. There are a lot of different interfaces, and when the CO2 emission data plops up and we want to give it to our shippers or to other interested parties, we thought about, the first thing you thought about, interfaces. And then come together with some workshop in the Open Logistics Foundation, where we look for new topics. And in this workshop, it was now 2.5 years ago, I said, okay, we have a problem. We think about how can we do it. And I found me in a group of 6-7 people who said, I have the same problem. And the best thing was, there was some guy from LKW Walter in between. He said, oh, I heard something about there is the Smart Freight Center in the Netherlands, and they are working on something, on a standardized interface. And this standardized interface was iLEAP. And so we said, okay, if there is something existing from a very known party, the Smart Freight Center, don't look for something else. So let's have a look at iLEAP and start with bringing this into life and into to solve our problems, because we do not want so many different formats and interfaces, because that reduces compatibility between each other. So if you know, in our times, there is no standard, or not this one standard, for example, for shipment interchange between logistic partners. So there are standards, but these standards have some varieties. So in the end, if you have a new partner and you want to have electronic EDI with him, you need to have a look in it and invest 2, 3, 4, 5 days of work before this interface is running. And this, we have something new, like the interchange of CO2 data or emission data, and we try to avoid this topic again. Let's phrase it that way. And we try to really have a standard in this way. And that come together with the increasing demand of customers. They want to have their scope 3 emissions, and who they ask? The transport companies, which give them the logistic services for them. And because when not only one customer or 2 or 3 or 50 customers or senders ask us, we need to scale it. And scaling is only possible if you do not have this 2, 3, 4 days of investing into new interfaces, but only have half an hour for interchanging some addresses for AP endpoints, API endpoints, and that makes things much more easier. So that was then our approach to this topic together in this workshop at the Open Logistics Foundation, and said, let us standardize this emission data exchange, not only by naming an interface, but really showing how can we use it in real life. And that's why we started with these use cases and show everybody how this can work. And I can't underline it much enough how happy we were that the Smart Freight Center created this iLEAP standard, which really let not any question open, because you can really handle everything. Violetta showed it before, how many different use cases you can handle with it. Of course, in version 1, it was not perfect. For example, we had some discussion who is sending to whom the information, because the underlying or the compatibility with the SINE Foundation makes it necessary that the customer pull the information from the logistics service provider, but we can convince everybody that is also very important for our business, that we push the information to our customers, because the logistics providers know when the transport is over, when all CO2 emissions are together, and when we can send this information to our partners. So, and in the end, there are, you see the names on the list of who is working together in this working group. And I'm pretty sure this is a strong ecosystem, what we have there. And we really can do the change, and we can make the difference, yeah, bring it really to real life, that somebody or everybody or as a lot of people as possible is using this solution. So now you ask yourself, how did we do this stuff, this crazy iLEAP stuff, into real world? As I said, we want to make a use case, and I'm from prototyping. I wanted to have a fast solution, and this fast solution said that we are not creating something completely new. We used iLEAP, let's phrase it this way, as a shared language, because we have our internal system. We have in our internal system our shipment data, our CO2 calculation is there, and we create a real nice report out of it. But this report is an Excel sheet or a PDF with some graphics. And what our sender, our customers wants to have is really the raw data to do their own calculation or integrate it in their CO2 reporting. And therefore, we take this original data from our own data warehouse into a transformation map. And this is the only secret what we did. And I'm honest, we did not do it with a lot of programming stuff. We give the iLEAP standard definition and ask some large language model to make this mapping, and it runs really, really smoothly. And now we have a machine, a mapping machine, a transformation machine in between, which map the data from our internal system to the iLEAP standard. And the only thing we need to program was that this iLEAP standard was taken out. This is also, again, a file, and communicate this file over an API interface to an external platform. In our example, it is Grin, but our dear hope is that it's not only Grin, that there are a lot of partners, customer platforms, and whatever behind it, and we just need to have a table with the API credentials that we can send to one of these customers, one of these platforms. And this whole thing is not completely automated at this time. I want to be honest, but it's more or less half automated system. We need to press 2 buttons to make it right. So we need to create our CO2 calculation, the CO2 report for this customer, and then take this report into an automated pipeline, which ends up in the sending of the API information to the customer or to the platform of the customer. So that was all. That was really fast integrated in our systems, because on our end everything was ready. On the end of the platform, they created the API endpoint to integrate the data coming over iLEAP into the system, and that is all. So coming back, that was what we are doing in our use case. And what will we learn from that? And I want to share these learnings with you, because the technology which Violetta presented, it sounds a little bit harsh, but it's not so important, because when you have this standard, it's not the barrier anymore. You have a very good toolbox here. You need to use it. And there it starts to become interested, because we need alignment with partners. Everybody needs to agree on using exactly these tools. And that was really essential for the progress. And it was really the hardest phase to find partners for this use case. But as soon as you find the partners, it was really not the problem anymore. As I said, the technology is so easy to integrate in our workflows. That was really amazing. And in the end, you need the commitment of everybody that the standardization is a good thing, because then you can scale it, and then you can have multiple parties in it, and that's really what we are hoping for. That in the end, this bring really the big success for everybody. And yeah. As I think I said it before, the most complex part is not the coding anymore. It is really the coordination between the ecosystems, and that everybody agreed on the data level which is exchanged. So now we have our pilot, and we want to go, of course, further, and this is really with the increasing of the automation. We need to think about how we can also automate the pickup of the CO2 data of our systems, and start automatically the creation of the iLEAP interface, and then the AP access. But I saw there's some colleague of mine here, or two colleagues of mine in the call. The important one is from the EDI Center, and I'm pretty sure that we have a talk later on how we can integrate it, because I'm pretty sure everybody who heard these examples and what Violetta said before is now a fan of iLEAP, and so we need to make our fan base happy. So that said, bring more partners to it. Everybody who is not partner in the Open Logistics Foundation, become a partner, become a member. It's really easy, and it's really good stuff to support us all. And so we can turn the use cases into really repeatable, successful things. So, and coming to the end of what we take away of it, it's really, we are on the right path. And if you see all the people who contributed to iLEAP, you can see this is really on a big foundation built. And so let's make it really happen, because we have consistent rules through the close connection to the ISO certification. This data which can be trusted, and that make the scalable so possible. And now that's what we need to do, is that we bring this pilot into an operational model, but I'm pretty sure we can do it, because everybody wants to have it, and that's what I want to give it away here. So come on board, help us, and let's make things easier for everybody. Thank you for your listening, and now I think we are open for Q&A. If there are some questions are open.
Yes, so please again leave your questions in the chat. I already saw one come through. Thank you very much, Ingo and Violetta, for your expertise and sharing your experiences. It was fantastic. Thank you very much. If you want to get in contact with them, their LinkedIn's are in the QR code here, so feel free to connect. I have just a couple things before we do get into the Q&A. So we do not have any specific dates set for our next Spotlight session. So please feel free, and you are encouraged to follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to our newsletter. Those are the places that you can find out about our next Spotlight session. And hopefully, I think after the summer holidays, when everyone's back and refreshed, we will be able to hop back into them with some new exciting topics and some updates and everything like that. Additionally, we have an upcoming event. So in, what is it, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? From the 1st to the 2nd of July, we have our upcoming Open Source Innovation Days. So this is our member event, and it is meant for members, meant for our network partners who are part of the Open Logistics Foundation. But we are also happy to host those who are really interested in a membership with the Open Logistics Foundation. So what we have is, especially on day 2, we have working group meetings that are kind of opened up so that the different working groups can talk to each other in person, of course, and then also compare notes and see what different working groups are working on, how we can work together, all of that stuff. So if you are interested in joining us, day 2 might be especially interesting for those interested in joining a working group like the Decarbonizing Logistics working group. And it would be a really great opportunity to learn more and to meet everyone and to do that. So unfortunately, I can't find the chat right now. Annika, do you mind sharing the link to OZID? It would be great if you could reach out to us. You can view the agenda on our website, and then please reach out to us if you are interested in joining us, and we'll see if that works out. So thank you very much. We really appreciate you joining us today. Please, again, write your questions in the chat, and we can get started on that. Where is my chat? Hold on one moment. I need to open it up. There we go. Okay, great. So we have a couple questions here already. I will read them now. So apart from initial efforts to implement and adapt your data to iLEAP, do you know have a sort of business as usual additional effort now, or is this sort of transparent? I think, Ingo, this might be to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the next question belongs to this. It's the question if I could share the estimation of the effort during implementation in FTEs would be amazing. Yes, starting with this, because this is pretty easy. We try their new techniques of integrating such kind of programs into our world. We use vibe coding there. And in fact, after understanding the program, it's not more than 2 days of doing the mapping program plus the transportation program. And yeah, that was 2 days because you have a really good definition of the iLEAP standard. We have a good definition of our internal CO2 database, and we bring both together and said, okay, fill me this one with that, and do a conversation table, and then write a small program to do this conversation plus send it to the defined API endpoint. That was pretty easy, but we have the very big advantage that our CO2 database was very cleaned up. That need to be said, because that depends on how much work you have in forehand. We do the job for having good CO2 data a long time ago. Now we have the benefit out of it, and so we do not really have a big task out of it. The only thing you need once a month or once a week, depends on how the customer agreement was to create the report, CO2 report for the customer, and then press the button for making out of this customer report a full iLEAP interface and call the API of the platform provider. So that's also not a lot of work, and as soon as we make it more optimized, not more less work, so that's what I can give it to you. And much less work than for every other customer agree on a new interface.
Great, perfect. Thank you very much for that answer. We will leave the chat open for just another minute to see if any other questions come through. Ingo and Violetta, anything that you want to add from each other that just popped into your head? I'll give you just a moment if you do have anything else also to add to see anything.
Yeah, I might quickly jump in. I think what Ingo just mentioned about their emissions data being very neat and tidy, I think this is something that is really key. And we also from Smart Freight Center, we noticed the same, that in this, let's say, digitalization journey, and not only for your own company, but also for your partners, irrespectively of where you are in the actors chain, it really makes a lot of sense if you start thinking which department can own this process of really like helping and making decisions around this, because it's, as you saw also with the story from Ingo, it's different people that will work in different aspects, right? So it's mostly also an IT implementation, but like it has a lot to do with sustainability. So making sure that there's an owner for this cross-functional work, we think is just a very interesting, it would really like help your company then make decisions. So I'm just slightly touching like on the importance of having proper governance in the organization and making sure that this, the digitalization progress, but also decarbonization at the same time kind of go hand in hand, and the right people are involved. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Violetta. We have one more question that came through.
Yes.
What can shippers do to pull in their LSPs/carriers in adopting iLEAP? So
yeah,
maybe
that's
Violetta?
Yes, that's a great question. And I think like the most important is to start from having conversations with your LSPs and carriers that move the majority, let's say, of your freight. So looking at the lanes that are your most used lanes, and then having a chat with those companies, understanding what they're doing with their digitalization, how also they perceive decarbonization, how the connection of the two comes, because it is really hand in hand. Once you have a good control of the decarbonization data, you can also like relatively easily move into the digitalization. So first and foremost, having these conversations, then checking what is generally their understanding of carbon accounting. For example, do they do it in-house, as Ingo mentioned? Do they rely on an external tool? So also understanding there who is essentially doing the carbon accounting. And then, essentially, we are 3 foundations coordinating all of this. So I really think just bringing these people, if they have interest, then in touch with us is just the best way forward. They can address all of their questions, they can understand. Also, they can tap into the community and ask, capacity questions, they can ask learnings, and we can fast track this, and we can really help everybody fast track that. But first and foremost, I would start from a conversation and really understanding where their strategic goals lie. Yeah, I would start from there. But yeah, this is a great question. Thank you so much for posing it.
Maybe I can add something from the point of view of the LSP. I think a lot of customers who are really interested in this are integrating CO2 carbon reporting in their contracts. So you need to do it. And then the next step is to show the LSP the easy way, not because if you have a reporting, somebody's sitting there every month making nice slides and bringing things together. And if you can show them there's an easier way, because once integrated, the iLEAP interface in your systems, it can be used multiple times, not only for one customer, for a lot of customers. And that's exactly the point. And probably you not only need to ask the big one, the big LSPs, because you can ask only the smaller ones, because if they have iLEAP already integrated, it's an easy step for them to give you the information in that. And I think that's the secret to write it in your next contract, that you are expecting CO2 data and preferable in iLEAP standard.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you both so much. Thank you for the questions. We really appreciate it. There are a lot of really great resources in the chat right now. There's links galore in there. So if you are looking for more information, there's an experts blog from Violetta in there on iLEAP. So you can give that a read if you want some additional insights. There's also some things from SINE Foundation, from Smart Fright Center. So feel free to give the chat another read through. Now that I have finally found my chats, also just another quick note on OZID. You can reach out to Natalie. I'm sharing her email in here if you're interested in joining us. So if you're interested in a membership with the Open Logistics Foundation, please let us know, and we are happy to see what works out with OZID if you're able to join us. So thank you, everyone, so very much. Thank you, Ingo and Violetta. This was fantastic. We really appreciate your insights. And yeah, I really hope that everyone has a really great day and a great rest of your week. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us, Daniele.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Bye-bye. See you in Berlin.